Kira Chen sat alone in the library at 3 in the morning. The massive room was empty and quiet. Giant crystal pillars rose from the floor to the ceiling, glowing with soft blue light. Through the tall windows, she could see 3 moons hanging in the purple sky of Kethra Prime. She was tired. Her eyes hurt from reading alien textbooks for hours. The Galactic Academy was the best university in the known galaxy, and Kira was one of only 12 humans who had ever been accepted. She had worked her whole life for this chance. But the classes were hard, very hard. The other students had been studying galactic history since childhood. Kira was always playing catch-up. She pulled out her datapad and started writing notes in the margins of her astronomy textbook. She wrote the way her grandmother had taught her back in Chengdu. A mix of Chinese characters for some words, English cursive for others. A few numbers in the style her mother used. It was messy and personal, but it helped her remember things. She did not notice the tall figure standing behind her. Professor Valeth Sorn was a Kethrasi. He had 4 arms, gray skin that glowed faintly in the dark, and eyes like pools of silver water. He was 700 years old and had spent most of his life studying ancient languages. He had come to the library to find a book. Instead, he found something impossible. He looked at the human girl's datapad. He looked at the symbols she was writing. His 2 hearts stopped beating for a moment. He knew those symbols. Every scholar in the galaxy knew those symbols. They were carved into temples on 1,000 dead worlds. They were written on artifacts that no one could read. They were the language of the progenitors, the ancient race that had created life across the galaxy 12 million years ago. The progenitors were gone. Their language had died with them. No one had spoken or written in Veleth Kai for 11 million years. Until now. Until this human girl wrote it in the margins of her homework. Valeth grabbed the datapad from her hands. Kira jumped in surprise and almost fell from her chair. "Hey, what are you doing?" she said. Valeth did not answer. His 4 hands were shaking. He turned the datapad around, looking at her notes from every angle. His silver eyes were wide, with something that looked like fear. "Where did you learn this?" he asked. His voice was barely a whisper. Kira stared at him. She did not understand what was happening. "Learn what?" "It's just my notes. It's how I write. This is not just writing." Valeth's voice grew louder. "This is Veleth Kai. This is the sacred script of the first ones. Where did you find it? Who taught you?" "I don't know what you're talking about," Kira said. She was getting scared now. "Everyone on Earth writes like this." Valeth pressed a button on his wrist. A soft alarm began to sound. Within seconds, lights came on throughout the library. Doors opened. Security officers in black armor rushed into the room. Kira stood up quickly. "Wait. What's happening? I didn't do anything wrong." But Valeth was not listening. He was talking rapidly to the officers in a language she did not understand. They all looked at her datapad. They all looked at her. Their expressions made her feel cold inside. They escorted her out of the library and down into the lower levels of the academy. Kira had never been down here before. The hallways were older. The walls were made of stone instead of crystal. Finally, they brought her to a small room with no windows. A single light hung from the ceiling. A metal table sat in the middle. They told her to wait. Then they left and locked the door. Kira sat in the metal chair and tried not to cry. She thought about her family back on Earth. Her mother and father in their small apartment. Her grandmother in her garden, growing vegetables and telling stories about the old days. She thought about how proud they had been when she got accepted to the academy. Now she was in some kind of prison, and she did not even know why. Hours passed. Through the small window in the door, she could see aliens gathering in the hallway. Dozens of them. Then, hundreds. They were all looking at something on a large screen. Some of them were pointing at her. Finally, the door opened. Professor Valeth entered, along with an older alien that Kira did not recognize. This one was very old. His skin was wrinkled and dim. He walked slowly, supported by a floating chair. "This is High Scholar Orith," Valeth said. "He has studied the progenitor language for 800 years. He wants to ask you some questions." Orith moved closer to Kira. He studied her face for a long moment. Then he spoke. His voice was soft and sad. "Child, do you understand what you have done?" Kira shook her head. "No. I really don't. Please, just tell me what's happening." Orith raised one of his thin hands. A holographic image appeared in the air between them. It showed an ancient stone tablet covered in strange symbols. The stone was cracked and worn. It looked incredibly old. "This tablet was found in a temple on a dead world 3,000 years ago," Orith said. "The symbols on it are Veleth Kai, the written language of the progenitors. For 3,000 years, we have tried to read it. We have failed. The language is dead. No one speaks it. No one writes it. We have only fragments, guesses, shadows." He waved his hand again. A second image appeared next to the first. It was Kira's datapad. Her notes about star systems and gravity. Her little drawings. Her grandmother's recipe for noodles that she had copied down because she was feeling homesick. The symbols on the tablet and the symbols in her notes were the same. Kira felt the room spin around her. "That's not possible," she whispered. "And yet, here we are," Orith said. "A human child from a small planet at the edge of the galaxy, writing in a language that died 11 million years before her species even existed." He leaned closer. His silver eyes seemed to look straight into her soul. "Tell me, child, what else do the humans remember?" Kira thought about her grandmother. She thought about the old woman's hands, showing her how to hold a pen. She thought about the words she had spoken so many times. "Write it down, little fish. We remember what others forget." She had always thought it was just something grandmothers said. Now she was not so sure. Outside the room, through the small window, Kira could see more and more aliens gathering. They were all watching her. Some looked afraid. Some looked amazed. Some were crying. And Kira Chen, a 19-year-old student from Earth who just wanted to pass her astronomy class, realized that her life would never be the same again. The news spread across the galaxy like fire. Within one day, every planet knew about the human girl who wrote in the language of the dead gods. Within 1 week, ships from 100 worlds were traveling to Kethra Prime. Scientists, scholars, religious leaders, politicians. Everyone wanted to see the impossible girl. Kira was moved from the small room to a large chamber in the center of the academy. It was comfortable, with a soft bed and good food. But she could not leave. Guards stood outside her door at all hours. She was not a prisoner, they told her. She was being protected. She did not feel protected. She felt like an animal in a cage. On the 10th day, they brought her before the Galactic Council of Linguistics. 200 of the smartest minds in the known universe sat in a great circular hall, their seats rising up like steps in a stadium. Kira stood alone in the center, feeling very small. High Scholar Orith spoke first. His voice was carried by speakers to every corner of the hall. "We have studied the human girl's writings," he said. "We have compared them to every known fragment of Velethkai script. The match is perfect. There is no doubt. She writes in the language of the progenitors." A wave of whispers moved through the hall. Orith raised his hand for silence. "But that is not all. We have also found matches to other lost languages. The curved symbols she uses match the ancient script of the Vellani homeworld. Her number symbols match mathematical formulas found in progenitor temples. Some of her letters match sacred texts that the Draori have chanted for 10 million years without understanding." He paused. The hall was completely silent now. The human girl does not write in one ancient language. She writes in pieces of many ancient languages. All of them together, mixed into one system. A tall alien stood up from his seat. He had red skin and sharp teeth. His voice was angry. This is impossible. The progenitors died millions of years before humans even existed. How could they know these languages? Ornamented. Ornamented. There been lented. Ornamented. Ornamented. Orith turned to Kira. Child, will you answer? Kira took a deep breath. Her voice shook a little, but she made herself speak clearly. On Earth, we have many languages. Thousands of them. We have Chinese, Arabic, English, Hindi, Latin, Greek, many more. My writing is just a mix of some of them. My grandmother taught me. The red alien laughed. It was not a nice sound. So, you claim that your primitive planet invented these sacred languages by accident? That is ridiculous. I don't claim anything, Kira said. Her fear was starting to turn into anger. I'm just telling you what I know. We didn't invent these languages. They've existed on Earth for thousands of years. We thought we invented them. Maybe we were wrong. Orith nodded slowly. We have already sent research teams to Earth. They arrived yesterday. Their first reports are remarkable. Minusly, Kudli. He waved his hand, and a large holographic display appeared in the air. It showed images of Earth, old temples, ancient books, stone tablets, covered in writing. Human languages are not random, Orith said. They are pieces of a puzzle. Chinese characters match Velithkai perfectly. Arabic script matches the lost language of Kethra. Latin letters match ancient Draori texts. Sanskrit, an old Earth language, matches the mathematical proofs we found in progenitor computers. Every major human writing system connects to something ancient, something we thought was lost forever. The hall erupted in noise. Aliens were shouting, arguing. Some were standing up from their seats. Kira watched it all with wide eyes. She still could not believe this was happening. One voice rose above the others. A female alien with blue skin and gentle eyes stood near the front. What does this mean? Are you saying the progenitors visited Earth? We believe so, yes, Orith said. More than that. We believe Earth was special to them. They gave different gifts to different worlds. They gave the Kethrasi their science. They gave the Villani their art. They gave the Draori their philosophy. He looked at Kira with an expression she could not read. They gave them their words. All of their words. Every language they had ever created. They planted the seeds of these languages in human minds and human cultures, and then they trusted humans to keep them alive. But why? Someone shouted from the crowd. Why humans? We do not know. Orith admitted. Perhaps because Earth was far from the center of the galaxy. Safe. Hidden. Perhaps because humans have a strange habit of writing things down and never throwing them away. Perhaps there was something special about them that we cannot see. But the result is clear. He turned to face the full assembly. For 11 million years, we have searched the galaxy for the lost knowledge of the progenitors. We have dug through ruins. We have studied dead worlds. We have tried to decode fragments that made no sense. And all this time, the answers were sitting on a small blue planet at the edge of everything. Written in the notebooks of schoolchildren and the recipe books of grandmothers. The hall fell silent again. Kira felt tears forming in her eyes. She thought about her grandmother, alone in her small house in Chengdu, carefully writing down recipes in her old notebook. She had no idea that her simple handwriting was older than the stars. Later that night, Kira was allowed to make a video call to Earth. Her grandmother's face appeared on the screen, wrinkled and smiling. Nay, Kira said. I'm in trouble. The aliens are saying our writing is really old, like millions of years old. Her grandmother laughed softly. Is that so? Good. I always said, we remember what others forget. Did you know? Kira asked. Did you know our languages were special? Her grandmother was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke slowly, choosing her words with care. When I was a little girl, my grandmother told me a story. She said that, long ago, visitors came from the sky. They gave us many gifts. But the most important gift was words. They told us to write everything down and never stop. They said that one day, the sky people would return, and they would need us to remind them of who they were. She smiled gently. I thought it was just a story, little fish. But maybe stories are just memories that we forgot were true. Kira wiped her eyes. What do I do now? Nai. What you always do, her grandmother said. Learn. Write it down. Remember. And when they ask you for help, help them. That is what our family has always done. The call ended. Kira sat alone in her room on an alien world, millions of miles from home. But for the first time since this all started, she did not feel scared. In quote, 80 on Wellmensile. She felt ready. The next morning, Orith came to her room with news. Deep beneath the pyramids of Egypt, researchers had found a hidden chamber. Inside was a message, carved in stone, written in perfect hieroglyphics. The translation read, You were always meant to remember. When the stars forget, Earth will remind them. Guard our words, children. One day, the galaxy will need them again. The progenitors had known. 12 million years ago, they had chosen humanity for a purpose. And now, finally, that purpose was becoming clear. The discovery changed everything. Across the galaxy, old beliefs crumbled like sand castles in the tide. Species that had thought they were the chosen children of the progenitors now learned they were just pieces of a larger puzzle. And the piece that held everything together was humanity. Not everyone was happy about this. The Kethrasi welcomed humans with open arms. They sent delegations to Earth, bringing gifts of crystal and light. They asked politely if human scholars could help them translate the ancient writings in their oldest temples. For the first time in 1,000 years, they might finally understand their own history. The Villani were even more excited. They were a species of artists and musicians, and they had always felt that something was missing from their culture. Now, they understood why. The beautiful songs they had sung for millions of years were incomplete. The original words had been lost. But on Earth, in a language called Sanskrit, those words still existed. We can sing again, their ambassador said, tears streaming down his blue face. After so long, we can finally sing the true songs. But not all species felt joy. Some felt fear, and some felt anger. The Draori hegemony was the largest military power in the galaxy. For 10 million years, they had built their civilization on one central belief. They were the chosen successors of the progenitors. Their priests chanted ancient words every day. Words they did not understand, but believed were sacred. Their temples were covered in symbols that no one could read, but everyone worshipped. Now the humans were saying those words were just fragments, broken pieces of something larger. And worse, the humans could actually read them. High Commander Verath stood on the bridge of his warship, staring at a report that made his blood boil. Human translators had decoded several Draori holy texts. The results were being shared across the galaxy. Everyone could see them. Everyone could see that the hegemony's sacred scripture was not special at all. It was just a small part of a language that humans used to write grocery lists. This is an attack, Verath said to his officers. The humans are trying to destroy us. They are trying to take away our place in the universe. His officers nodded in agreement. It was easier to believe in a conspiracy than to accept that everything they knew was wrong. We must act, Verath continued. Before this poison spreads further, we will go to Earth. We will take the archives. We will show the galaxy that we are the true inheritors of the progenitors, not these weak little creatures from a backwater planet. His fleet began to move. Meanwhile, on Kethra Prime, Kira Chen was working harder than she had ever worked in her life. She was no longer a student. She was now the head of the Universal Codex Project, a team of human and alien scholars working together to translate every known progenitor text. The work was difficult but exciting. Every day brought new discoveries. A Villani poem that had been meaningless for millions of years suddenly made sense when compared to ancient Chinese poetry. A Kethrasi scientific formula that no one could solve was easily understood when written in Arabic numerals. Piece by piece, the lost knowledge of the progenitors was coming back to life. But Kira did not let the work go to her head. She remembered her grandmother's words. "When they ask you for help, help them. This knowledge belongs to everyone," she told the Galactic Assembly. "We are not going to hide it or sell it or use it for power. Every species will have access. Every world will get their history back. That is the human way." Some aliens laughed at her. They said she was naive. They said knowledge was power, and power should not be given away for free. Kira did not listen to them. She kept working. She kept sharing. She kept believing that the right thing to do was always the right thing to do, even when it was hard. 1 month later, the Draori fleet arrived at the edge of human space. Varath sent a message to Earth. His face appeared on screens across the planet. His voice was cold and hard. "People of Earth, you have something that belongs to us. The sacred language of the progenitors is our birthright, not yours. You have stolen it. You have twisted it. You have used it to spread lies about our holy empire." He paused, letting his words sink in. "You have 1 week to surrender the archives and the human called Kira Chen. If you refuse, we will take them by force, and we will burn your planet to ash." Panic spread across Earth. Humans had only been part of the galactic community for a short time. Their ships were small and few. Their weapons were weak compared to the Draori war fleet. They had no way to fight back. But something unexpected happened. Ships began arriving at Earth. Not Draori ships. Ships from other worlds. Kethrasi cruisers with crystal hulls. Villani vessels decorated with beautiful patterns. Even ships from species that had never shown any interest in humans before. The captain of the first Kethrasi ship sent a message to Earth's leaders. "We are not here to protect humans. And," he said, "we are here to protect knowledge. The progenitors trusted your people with the memory of the galaxy. We will not let that memory be destroyed." Quote, quote, quote. More ships came. And more. Within days, a fleet of 100 vessels from 20 different species hung in orbit around Earth. They were not as strong as the Draori, but they were not nothing either. Kira watched the ships gathering from her window. She felt a strange mix of emotions. Fear, because war was coming. Pride, because the galaxy was willing to fight for what her people carried. And something else, a feeling she could not name. Her datapad buzzed. A message from High Scholar Orith. "Young one," it read, "I have translated another tablet. This one was found in the heart of the Draori homeworld, in their most sacred temple. I think you should see what it says." Kira opened the attached file. The translation filled her screen. It was a prayer. The oldest Draori prayer. The one their priests had chanted every day for 10 million years. The words they had never understood. But now, thanks to a human language called Sumerian, the words finally made sense. Remember kindness. Remember mercy. Remember that strength is nothing without wisdom. We are not conquerors. We are gardeners. We plant seeds so that others may grow. Kira read the words again and again. Tears fell down her cheeks. The Draori had been warriors for so long. They had built an empire on strength and fear. But this was not who they were meant to be. Their own ancestors, their own progenitor-given purpose, was something completely different. They were supposed to be gentle. They were supposed to be wise. They had simply forgotten. Kira wiped her eyes and made a decision. She would not wait for war. She would not hide behind the alien ships. She would do what her grandmother had taught her. She would help them remember. She began to write a message to High Commander Verath, a message to the entire Draori fleet. If words had started this crisis, then words would end it too. The Draori fleet moved closer to Earth. 500 warships, each one bristling with weapons that could crack a planet in half. Against them stood the combined fleet of the Defenders. 100 ships from 20 species. Brave, but not enough. Everyone knew how this battle would end. High Commander Verath watched the enemy fleet from his command chair. His officers were ready. His weapons were armed. In a few hours, Earth would be his. Then his communications officer spoke. "Commander, we are receiving a transmission. It is coming from the human homeworld." "Ignore it," Verath said. "I have no interest in their surrender, please." "Sir, it is not from their government. It is from the human girl, the one who started all this. She is asking to speak to you directly, and she is asking to speak in Draori." Verath paused. This was unexpected. "What does she want?" "She says she wants to read you something. She says it is yours." Against his better judgment, Verath was curious. "Put her through." Kira Chen's face appeared on the main screen. She was young and small, and clearly afraid. But her eyes were steady. "High Commander," she said. Her Draori was imperfect but understandable. "Thank you for listening. You have 1 minute," Verath said. "Then I destroy your fleet and your world." "I understand." Kira took a deep breath. "I want to read you something. It is called the Velith Thara. Do you know what that means?" Verath's eyes narrowed. The Velith Thara was a legend among his people, a lost scripture that supposedly contained the original teachings of the Draori ancestors. Priests had searched for it for millions of years. "The Velith Thara does not exist," he said. "It is a myth." "It exists," Kira said. "We found it on Earth. Your ancestors wrote it in a language that humans call Sumerian. We have had it for 5,000 years. Would you like to hear it?" Verath said nothing. His hearts were beating fast. Every eye on the bridge was fixed on the screen. Kira began to read. The words were old. So old that they felt like echoes from the beginning of time. She read slowly, carefully, pronouncing each syllable the way her team had taught her. It was a creation story. But not the creation story the Draori knew. Not a story of war and conquest. Not a story of strength crushing weakness. It was a story of planting and growing. Of teaching and learning. Of parents who loved their children so much that they gave them everything they had, asking for nothing in return. The progenitors looked at the Draori and saw fire. Kira read, "Beautiful, dangerous fire." And they said, "This fire could burn the galaxy, or it could warm it." So they gave the Draori a gift. Not the gift of war, the gift of protection, the gift of being strong, so that the weak could be safe. She continued reading. The Velith Thara told of how the Draori were meant to be guardians, not conquerors. They were supposed to use their strength to protect other species, not destroy them. They were supposed to be the shield of the galaxy, not its sword. On the bridge of his warship, Verath sat perfectly still. His officers were watching him. Some of them had tears in their eyes. They had chanted prayers their whole lives without understanding them. Now, for the first time, they understood. And what they understood broke their hearts. "You were never meant to be warriors," Kira said softly. "You were meant to be protectors. The progenitors loved you. They believed in you. And somewhere along the way, you forgot." She paused. "I am not asking you to surrender. I am not asking you to be weak." The transmission ended. Kira's face disappeared from the screen. For a long moment, no one on the bridge spoke. The only sound was the hum of the ship's engines. Finally, one of Verath's officers stepped forward. His name was Korath. and he had been a soldier for 300 years. His voice shook when he spoke. "Commander, is it true? Were we really supposed to be protectors?" Varath did not answer immediately. He was thinking about his whole life. Every battle he had fought. Every world he had conquered. Every enemy he had destroyed. He had always believed he was doing the right thing. He had always believed he was following the will of the progenitors, but he had been wrong. He had been so terribly wrong. "Yes," he said finally. "Then what do we do?" Varath looked at the view screen. Earth hung in the distance, blue and green and beautiful. Such a small world to carry such a heavy burden. He thought about the human girl. So young, so weak, so brave. She had come to him not with weapons, but with words. She had defeated him without firing a shot. And somehow, that defeat felt like a gift. "We lower our weapons," Varath said. His officers stared at him. "Commander, we lower our weapons," he repeated. "And we ask for forgiveness." He opened a channel to the entire fleet. His voice was calm and clear. "All ships, this is High Commander Varath. Stand down, the attack is cancelled. We are not here to conquer today. We are here to learn." Confused voices flooded the channel. Officers demanding explanations. Priests shouting about blasphemy. Varath ignored them all. He opened a channel to the defending fleet. To Earth. To the entire galaxy. "People of Earth. People of the galaxy. I have spent my whole life believing a lie. My people have spent millions of years believing a lie. We thought we were the chosen warriors of the progenitors. We thought strength was our purpose." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "Today, a human child taught me the truth. We were not chosen to conquer. We were chosen to protect. We were not given strength to destroy. We were given strength to guard. For millions of years, we have failed our purpose. We have become the opposite of what we were meant to be." His voice dropped to almost a whisper. "This ends today. The Draori hegemony will not attack Earth. We will not take the archives. Instead, we will learn. We will study our own history. We will try, however late, to become what we were always meant to be." Quote. He looked directly at the camera. "Kira Chen, I do not know if you can hear me, but I want to thank you. You gave me back my soul today. You gave my entire species back our souls. We will never forget this." Across the galaxy, billions of beings watched in stunned silence. The most powerful military in the known universe had been stopped. Not by weapons. Not by threats. Not by force. By a story. On Earth, in the command center where she had broadcast her message, Kira Chen sat down heavily in a chair. Her whole body was shaking. She had not been sure it would work. She had not been sure of anything. She had just done what her grandmother taught her. She had remembered. And she had helped others remember too. Around her, people were cheering and crying and hugging each other. But Kira just sat quietly, thinking about an old woman in Chengdu who had taught a little girl to write. "We remember what others forget," she whispered to herself. It turned out that was the most powerful weapon in the universe. 10 years had passed since the day the Draori fleet turned back from Earth. 10 years of change. 10 years of healing. 10 years of remembering. 10 years. The galaxy looked nothing like it had before. Old enemies had become friends. Ancient walls had crumbled. Species that had never spoken to each other now worked side by side, united by a simple truth. They were all children of the same parents, and they had all forgotten who they were, until the humans reminded them. Earth had changed too. The small blue planet was no longer a backwater world at the edge of nowhere. It had become the heart of the galaxy. Millions of visitors came every year from every corner of known space. They came to see the temples and libraries. They came to touch the soil where the progenitors had planted their greatest gift. They came to learn. But the humans had not let the attention go to their heads. They did not demand payment. They did not build an empire. They did not use their new importance to gain power over others. Instead, they did what they had always done. They taught. They translated. They shared. They remembered. The Universal Codex had grown into something beautiful. What had started as a small project in a single room was now the largest collection of knowledge in galactic history. Every progenitor text ever found had been translated. Every lost language had been recovered. Every species could finally read their own ancient stories. And at the center of it all was Kira Chen. She was 29 now. The scared teenager, who had been arrested for writing notes in a library, was gone. In her place stood a woman with calm eyes and steady hands. She led the Codex project with patience and wisdom that made beings 10 times her age listen carefully to her words. Today was a special day. After years of work, her team had finally translated the last great mystery, the progenitor's final message, found in a sealed vault at the very center of the galaxy. Kira stood before the Galactic Assembly, just as she had 10 years ago. But this time, she was not afraid. This time, she knew exactly who she was and what she was meant to do. "Thank you all for coming," she said. Her voice was carried to every corner of the Great Hall. "Today, I want to share something with you. The last words the progenitors ever wrote. The message they left for us before they disappeared." She touched a button, and the ancient text appeared on a giant screen behind her. Strange symbols that had meant nothing for 12 million years. Then she began to read. "To our children among the stars. We knew our time was ending. We could not stop it, but we could choose what survived." She paused, looking out at the thousands of faces watching her. Kethrasi, Vellani, Draori, and yes, humans too. All of them waiting. All of them listening. "We gave our science to the Kethrasi," she continued. "They would build great things. We gave our art to the Vellani. They would create beauty. We gave our philosophy to the Draori. They would protect the weak." Her voice grew softer. "But to Earth, to the small blue world at the edge of everything, we gave our words. All of them. Every language. Every story. Every song. Because words are not just communication. Words are memory. And memory is how the dead speak to the living." She felt tears forming in her eyes but did not wipe them away. "You will forget us. That is natural. But as long as Earth remembers, we are never truly gone. Be kind to each other. Tell stories. Write everything down. And when the stars grow quiet, look to the humans. They will remind you who you were and who you can still become." She finished reading. The hall was silent. With love, across time. No one spoke. No one moved. Then, slowly, one by one, the beings in the assembly rose from their seats. They did not applaud. They did something older, something deeper. They bowed their heads in gratitude. A gesture that transcended species and language and time. Kira bowed back. After the ceremony, Kira returned to Earth. She took a small shuttle, refusing the fancy ships that important people usually used. She wanted to be alone with her thoughts for a while. She landed in Chengdu in the early morning. The city was waking up, full of the sounds of people starting their day. She walked through familiar streets, past shops and restaurants and schools, until she reached a small house with a garden full of vegetables. Her grandmother was 94 now. She moved slowly and sometimes forgot things, but her eyes were still bright, and her smile was still warm. "Ni Nai," Kira said, sitting down beside her on the old wooden bench. "I did it. They finally know everything. The whole galaxy understands now." Her grandmother patted her hand. "Good. You did well, little fish." They sat together in comfortable silence, watching the sun rise over the garden. A cat wandered by. Birds sang in the trees. What happens now? Her grandmother asked. Kira thought about it. What did happen now? The great work was done. The mystery was solved. The galaxy was at peace. But she knew the answer already. It was the same answer it had always been. Now we keep going, she said. We keep teaching. We keep writing things down. We keep remembering. That's what we do. Her grandmother nodded. Good. And speaking of writing things down, she reached into her pocket and pulled out an old notebook, its pages yellow with age. This was my grandmother's, she said. And her grandmother's before her. All the way back, as far as anyone can remember. Family recipes. Stories. Little notes. About life. Nothing important. Just memories. She pressed the notebook into Kira's hands. Now it's yours. Add to it. Pass it on. The big words you read today, the fancy messages from ancient gods, those are important. But so is this. The small things. The everyday things. That's how we really remember. Kira held the notebook carefully, feeling the weight of generations in her hands. She opened it to a random page and smiled. Her great-great-grandmother's handwriting. A recipe for dumplings. I'll take care of it, she promised. I know you will. Her grandmother leaned back and closed her eyes. Now tell me about your speech. Was it good? Did people cry? Too. Kira laughed. Yes, nai. People cried. Good. A story isn't worth telling if it doesn't make people cry. They talked for hours. Just a grandmother and her granddaughter, sharing stories in a small garden while the galaxy turned overhead. It was a simple moment. An ordinary moment. But somehow, it was also the most important moment of all. Because this was what humanity had given the galaxy. Not weapons, not technology, not power. Just this. The simple act of sitting together, passing down memories, writing things down so they would not be forgotten. The progenitors had known. They had seen something special in the small creatures on that small blue world. Something that no other species had quite the same way. Humans were stubborn. They were sentimental. They kept old letters and photographs and notebooks full of nothing important. They told stories to their children and their children's children. They built monuments to remember the dead. They celebrated anniversaries of things that happened centuries ago. They refused to let go. And in the end, that simple refusal had saved the galaxy. High above the garden, ships from 100 worlds moved peacefully through the stars. Their crews were learning, reading, remembering. In schools and libraries across the universe, children of every species learned their first words the old way. By writing them down, one letter at a time, just as the progenitors had hoped. Because humans had not conquered the galaxy with weapons or strength, they had done something far more powerful. They had taught the stars to read. And in a small house in Chengdu, an old woman and her granddaughter added another page to a notebook that had been passed down for generations. Just memories. Just words. But sometimes, that's enough to save everything.